Hello and welcome to the final episode in our series about building a Java app to extract data from the Jira APIs. Earlier, we actually logged into Jira, we got a JSession ID, we used it to authenticate while we pulled data from a web service, and then we converted that response from JSON into CSV. So here, this last step, we're just dumping our finished data into a file. And let's get started with that. For this step, we know we're going to need the standard text file writing libraries. Let's go up to the top and add those in now. The first one is buffered writer, which writes text to a character output stream, buffering as it goes so that it's efficient. Really, buffering won't make a huge difference for us because we're only writing one string, but I make this a habit because without it, every call to the underlying print method would actually trigger a conversion into bytes and then a write to disk before it was able to continue doing anything. So let's use a buffered writer. We'll import java.io.bufferedWriter. Next one is file writer. So this is a class which just contains methods to make, I think, a convenience class. It contains methods to make it easy to write out text data into a file rather than byte data. When I say file, it could be some other sync. So it's about text and it's about files. And import java.io.filewriter. Those two libraries should make it easy to do everything else we need to do. So then we go down to our function signature. Actually, we need two pieces of data. We don't just, so we need a CSV string that we created and we stored it in a thing called CSV data. So down here in write to file, we definitely need to pass CSV data. But we also need an output directory. We don't need it. It would just write into the current directory, but let's just do it this way so we see how it's done. Export directory, and we'll say downloads. We're going to need to pass both of those down, so CSV data and export file directory. Why do I call it file directory? Why don't I just call it export directory? Export directory. There we go. Two pieces of data, and we are sending them here. And down here we will receive them. So the first one is a string, and the second one is also a string. So we'll put those both in. Okay, with that done, we can start coding up our function. The first thing we'll do is create a try catch block. Catch exception EX. And then we're going to want our standard error handling method where each function prints its own error and its name. No, it's called write to file. So error in write to file and print out the message, and then it, instead of returning its normal output, it returns the string error. Then up at the top here in main, we get the error, and if any errors occurred, we set errors occurred to true. That's our error handling. Then we also want our debug output, which we're just doing very manually here before we return anything from any function. So write to file output, and just put a little new line in before it starts. That's the basics of it. Oh, you know what? When I start thinking about the next step, which is actually coding this up, I like my files to have timestamps on them, and I like them to be nicely formatted. So for that, we're going to need to import a simple date format. Text.simpleDate format. Let's go up here and we'll pop it in. That, like that, and that. Now we can use it. Like I said, I like timestamps, so let's build a timestamp. So string current timestamp equals new simple date format, and here's why. That's a good format. And what are we formatting? We're formatting the current date. That's a Java util date, and if we just call its constructor like that, it'll give us the current date. We've got our timestamp. Let's create a writer object. Buffered writer, we'll call it writer, and that will equal a new buffered writer, and its constructor, we'll send in a new file writer, And for that we have, we can now specify what we're writing. We'll specify a name. Export directory plus, maybe we'll give it an underscore, and then we'll call it Jira issues, another underscore, and then we'll give it that current timestamp. Right, current timestamp. And then we should give it an extension as well, .csv, and that wraps it up. We have a file writer that is ready to write something into this directory, a file with this long name and the CSV extension. Alright, so let's write something, and that is very simply call writer.write our CSV data. Once it's written, writer.close the file, and we're done. Now let's see how that works. In fact, let's pull up our test folder. It is, oh, we'd better create a folder called downloads before we try to put something in it. Okay, I'll open that up and let's compile. Please work. It did. Automate. Run it. Oh, error. This directory downloads. Where am I? Users JP desktop test. Oh, look at that. Downloads. There we go. Downloads. Let's try it again. I don't need to compile it. Success. Let's open it up. And LibreOffice decides it wants to open it. That's fine with me. And there is our output. So we have our issues, our record types, everything that we need to filter and use to make reports. And there's our big comment text at the end, making things look bad. I'm glad that's not in the middle somewhere. That is the conclusion of our little exercise. Thanks for sticking with it, or at least popping in to visit the key parts. I will get this posted online as quickly as I can, and thanks again. Have a good day. Bye.